So I grew up in a very chaotic household. My parents had really legalistic viewpoints. My mother was and still is mentally ill. My dad was abusive. By the time I started junior high, I was smoking cigarettes and pot. I was skipping school, and soon after that I started experimenting with other drugs and became sexually active. In 8th grade, my sister and I were put in foster care, and as soon as my aunt and uncle heard, they came and got us and took us into their home, and we started to go to church with them. But even though I was going to the youth group there, I continued to make really bad choices. I got pregnant at the end of my junior year in high school, and my son Seth was born on March 7th, 2000. 3 months later, he got very suddenly sick and he passed away. He had a birth defect in his intestines that nobody knew he had. So my life was completely shattered. And although I rededicated my life to Christ during my pregnancy, I was so angry at God that I walked away from my faith for quite some time. On January 29th, 2003, I was blessed with my beautiful daughter, Ashley. Ash and I moved here to Lake Stevens when she was 3 years old, and we started going to Calvary Chapel. That's really when my life started to change. God started to point out in my life things that didn't line up with Him. About 4 years later, my husband Roy and I got married actually here at Calvary Chapel, and we had our daughter Kaylin just over 5 years ago on September 2nd, 2011.
You did? Yeah, and it picked the cat.
When Kaylin was about 1 year old, I came to church on a Sunday, just like every other Sunday, except I'd been going through a lot in my life that week. We had been trying to buy this home. It was a short sale and it had fallen through, and we had to be out of our house in 3 weeks, and I was just losing it. In the parking lot before I even got in the door, my friend asked how I was doing, and I broke down into tears. I spent most of church service that day just crying in the hallway, and my friend who took care of all the children's ministry stuff at that time, I don't remember what she said to me, but I remember her praying with me. So when I went home that day, as soon as I got Kaylin down for her nap, I had the house to myself, and I knew I needed to have a conversation with God. I wasn't just talking to God, I was yelling at God, I was screaming at God. I was telling Him how upset I was that my son was gone and how I couldn't trust Him. After I wore myself out, yelling and screaming at God, I started reading my Bible, and the Lord brought to mind over and over again Jeremiah 21:11. I have plans for you, says the Lord. They are plans for good and not for disaster, to give you a future and a hope. And as I read that, I kept thinking, there's gotta be a reason. There has to be a reason that my son lived and died and was on this earth. The other verse he kept bringing to my mind was Isaiah 40, verse 31. They that wait upon the Lord will renew their strength. They will mount up on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not faint. I was just thinking, I need to wait. I have to wait on the Lord to provide these answers. I also pictured an eagle soaring and thought, God sees the whole picture. I can't see the whole picture. I don't understand how all of this is connected, but God sees the whole picture. And I just felt a peace about me at that point. So I walked upstairs, and there was this hawk sitting on my front porch, like 3 feet from the window, just looking at me. And I just got chills again talking about it. And I just felt like God sees me, like God sees everything that's happened to me, and He's here. It was pretty amazing. That day was a huge turning point for me in my relationship with Christ. It was the beginning of me working through a lot of issues from my past. God just showed me His true nature. My heart has always been with youth group age kids. My life had been so crazy and I'd felt so lost during those years. And I just knew with my newfound joy and freedom in Christ, it was time for me to serve in the area that God called me to. I just pray every day that God will use me to make a difference and just shine His love through me. And I want to be there to help them through their struggles. And I know that's where God has put me for a reason.